All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to Design Your Life OS, your connected knowledge base for goals, projects, and inspirations. Today, we are going to be talking about AI powered thinking for your future self. Your future self. My name is Shelley Hayduck, and I'm co hosting today's event with Matt Caton, our Director of Customer Solutions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on a really fantastic topic because Shelly and I have been longtime users of the brain, and I didn't even know, my past self didn't even know that he was collecting data for future Matt all along. And yeah, I'm going to be sharing some specific examples with you of data and content that I've collected and mapped out in the brain years ago that I still benefit from to this day. So it's a really, really great webinar for the longevity of your digital brain that we'll be looking at today.
Excellent. And so, in terms of what we're covering, we're really going to talk about a knowledge base for life with the brain. It's summer. Some of you might be at your desk. Some of you are out and about traveling. It's a great time for reflection and queuing up for that fourth quarter as well. So, your Life OS will consist of knowledge mapping. We're going to cover inspiration warehousing and creating that inspiration vault, a projects dashboard, and really just mindful reflection. And the whole idea and premise behind the Life OS brain is to go towards a future driven PKM is what we want to talk to you about. So where you're actually visualizing active projects and processes rather than just kind of creating a collective bucket of notes. So, first of all, knowledge management in whatever form is fantastic. To Matt's point about aggregating all that information so you have it for your future. But we're also going to point our eye towards a newer methodology on this webinar today, where we're talking more about visualizing future focusing types of information. So past oriented PKM is sort of archiving everything, having like literally putting everything away. Just for the sake of capture. So we really, while you can capture everything, and the brain, of course, is one of the most scalable technologies where people have literally millions of thoughts, notes, and connections in their brains. But that being said, what we want to talk to you about, and if you're one of those users, that's fine too, because this can be a new section in your brain or a reorientation of that brain is visualizing active goals and processes specifically for your future. So everyone has too many notes, too many apps, but what they don't have is enough meaning in the information. So that's where the Life OS brain comes in. So how do we get started? Really, our goal, being the brain, is to map your mind. So even with the advent of AI, you've got lots of chat boxes that you're probably dealing with now, all your documents. So really, this particular brain is a map of your mind. And this map is going to connect all your goals, your ideas, and it's also going to help you think in networks rather than silos. So rather than going to your chat dialog box or your folder drive, you'll have it all there in a organized fashion in a way that suits your method of thinking. So, I mean, organizing your mind is just the first step to transforming your life. And you want to think of each facet of your life as a sphere of knowledge in your brain. So what that means is we're going to organize key areas of your life into one interconnected web of information. So that's all going to come together and provide that meaning and insight for you. And we want to move away from the storage driven PKM, which is simply just knowledge capture, which is fine. And that's valuable in of itself, as you know, when you're in the middle of, key research. But that being said, taking that knowledge capture and driving it towards a future forward project, a goal, personal development. So rather than your brain just becoming another silo of all this stuff that's highly searchable and highly reflective, it becomes an action plan for your future. And final thoughts, we want you to be able to design your life so that your goals are in conversation with those values. So ultimately, what we're looking to create with you is a value laden brain so that you can get more out of your life. And that is a little bit of just kind of the background. What I want to do is get into our connected brain. This is a template for everyone that you are welcome to get from us. We'll have a link to this on our recording page. And this is the LifeOS connected self brain. So everything in our brain can be accessed through thoughts. We also have the notes area. Just gonna move this, oops, here. And pieces of information in the brain can represent all aspects and facets of our particular life. So for instance, in this particular brain, one of the key thoughts that we have is life vision. So in this particular area, you can talk about your core values, your 10-year vision, if you have any personal mission statements, or your roles. We also have another section on reflection and growth. So this particular area, you might want to get into nurturing relationships you have in your life. And these could be family relationships, friendships, professional relationships. All this kind of stuff happens in this particular area of your brain. And the other section that we're going to cover is projects. In terms of future forward, as we're thinking about these things, we might want to connect these things to a project. So for instance, your next trip to Japan might be focused on those relationships or friendships that you have. And so that takes sort of a principle that you might have in your brain from nurturing positive relationships into an actual project where you can kind of start building your knowledge. So from there, for instance, I might want to go ahead and go and grab some information. If I want to go ahead and search the web on planning for Japan, I can do that. And I can pivot from basically, I'll just go to news real quick and add something in. So pivot from my theoretical, what I want to do, to my practical application of here's how I do it. So in this case, there's maybe an article I'm doing some research on. So I'm going to take this URL, I'm going to drag and drop it under my Japan plan. And you can see that makes a nice web connection to that. I can start taking some notes in my notes area over here. Need to remember to ship gluten-free food for my friend, and kind of make this area come to life. And of course, with each thought, I can actually go ahead and add any document, anything I want to add to this particular thought. So if I actually want to start creating a document on this trip, I can go and do it and start typing in my agenda, building an itinerary. And of course, I can save that, and that just gets saved right into the brain. Of course, we have the notes area as well. So I'm attaching files. I just want to give you guys a broad view of what you can do. So you can see I've got a web page. I've got a note. This is coming in, connecting to friendships. It's an active project that I have. It's also part of my personal insights goal that I have. So if I want to go ahead and link this to my emotional intelligence development, I've really kind of built an area where I can take some ideas concept that I'm doing for personal improvement and connecting it to a live project. So let's just go look at some of these other areas in my brain as well, just to give you guys some creative ideas. So this is reflection and growth. Wellness and mindfulness, a lot of people have this area built out. And these are great areas to also use AI for instance, if you want to go in and to take a note on mindfulness. And here you can get, Matt's going to get a little bit more into our AI section. I'm just going to adjust the creativity to 50%. I'm going to set my context thought to my connected self. And I'm going to give this note maybe a 250, 300 word limit and generate this. And so now I've got a nice note here that's actually being generated through AI. I do have the ability to accept or discard or redo this if I want to summarize. In this case, I'm just going to accept the note. It looks pretty good. I like the idea of going into all these different areas of wellness. So I'm going to accept that. And now I've got a note. So my own ideas are sort of starting to merge with artificial intelligence, and that's coming together nicely as well. And let me go back to my goals and planning. So in this case, you can track all your 2025 goals. So they could be business and career goals, relationship goals, health and fitness goals. All that can come together. And also, some of the stuff could be in one brain, but you can also have stuff in different brains as well. So for instance, health and fitness, this is a key goal of mine, but I actually have this in a separate brain in my longevity brain here, where I'm actually researching sleep and rest. And a lot of this brain and the categories in this brain started off with AI, and then I've sort of built my own section here with my notes on, how to get good sleep quality, sleep hygiene practices, and all this kind of stuff. Which comes into my longevity brain. So the interesting thing about these future forward brains is you can have sort of the one brain for everything. And we do have that template for you in LifeOS. But you can also do separate brains if your topic is getting fairly large, or for instance, I like to collaborate with some researchers and some people in the office on longevity. So in this case, I've got this as a separate brain. And let's just go back to this. A few more areas I want to talk about. Reflection and growth. This particular area is where you can have topics that are interesting to you and map out these ideas, and then these ideas can somehow start to translate into an actual project and make those connections. I kind of showed you an example of that. So if you want to cultivate emotional intelligence, developing empathy and compassion, maybe that's related to a trip you're working on or some community involvement. We can make a connection, and you can build a section to your community or make a link to your community events. So now when you're working on volunteering, you're sort of thinking about that larger goal. And of course, in here, you can make notes on everything you have to do in this area. And in terms of projects, obviously, personal development is not just about personal goals, but they're also about business goals as well. So if we want to go, I'm just going to hop over to another brain that is a LifeOS brain, and this is called my journey brain. It's got a little bit more active content filled out, so you can kind of get a sense of what some of these things can look like. You can have your bucket list here, checklists in your notes of things you want to do, whether it's running a marathon, learning guitar, making pasta in Italy. All that can come to life. And you can see here in this particular brain, it's personalized with different wallpaper that inspires you. And here's that personal growth section again. And if I go to my active projects area, I can see all my projects that are really coming to life, from website design to actual trips that I'm building. But right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and create a new thought for new product design. So I want to show you how easy it is to sort of create and build that product. I don't have that product yet, but I'm working towards that, and I want that vision of this new product. It is, let's just say it's going to be a generic app that I'm going to sell on the iStore. So I'm going to come in here. I might add a document if I want to start building maybe I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation to pitch to management. So in this case, I'll just go ahead and start my presentation. Let's assume I've got that going. I'll save that into the brain. I've got my presentation. I might want to take some notes about how exciting and cool this new product will be. Now you can see the notes in this case are on dark mode. You can get some really nice templates and formats in your notes area. I can also see my mapped links. If I had any backlinks or unlinked mentions, those would be there as well. I'll let Matt cover a little bit more of that, but just to give you a sense of just the notes area in and of itself could be utilized. Now for new product design, I can do a couple things. If I have my own phase of product design, which might be number one, idea development. I can come in here and create that particular, let's just say idea prototype. That was cool. So I've got my idea prototype. And so I can actually list these as far as phases if I want to. The other thing I need to do is number 2 is requirements. And I can actually use the semicolon to go ahead and create multiple thoughts. If I want to do number 3, I can do that. In this case, I'll just go ahead and start adding different phases in this particular brain. And I'm going to go ahead and also add some documents. So for my idea prototype phase, I'm actually going to be looking at best practices. So I have a document. I can simply drag and drop this. And if I drop it on the thought, it's going to connect to that particular idea, or I can create a new topic below for that particular document. I also have some usability testing that I want to add. I'm going to put that in my requirements area. And then there's some nice websites that I want to get in, some good research on UX that I'm looking at. So let me just go ahead. Set it away. And drop that into my brain. And now you can see how quickly this particular project starts to get fleshed out. But I'm going to keep this stuff on sustainable solutions and link that up to my actually section on famous naturalists, which is kind of another area of my brain. That takes me to a whole other universe of people that I'm inspired by. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Matt.
I'm going to share with you some different aspects of, using the brain for, in this case, I'm going to start with journaling. That was one of the topics of, future personal knowledge management. It's something that's important to a lot of people, journaling. And I'm just making sure that you can see my
Yeah, it looks
screen.
great. It looks
Okay, good, good.
it looks very zen. I actually like seeing it kind of blank with just 2025 in the background. So
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So this is another sample brain that we can share with you at the end of the webinar today, everyone will see an email to the recording. They can see some of the brains that Shelly has already demoed. This will be a sample brain available for you as well. I create a new version of this brain every year, and I always get requests for it. Sometimes January 1st or late December, I start getting emails in support saying, "Hey, do you have the 2025 brain ready quite yet?" There's instructions. I'll share with you where they are in this brain. There's instructions to recreate your own. But this is basically a brain with a thought for every day of the year, and it is perfect for journaling. This is the demo that I send out, the demo brain that I send out that anyone can use. You might wonder, hey, open your own journal brain because I do believe in journaling. I really enjoy it. I use a version of this brain for my own journaling. Journaling is a very, very personal, reflective topic. I'm sorry, I'm not going to share my own personal journal with the entire world today, but you can build your own journal. We can just go to today's date. So in July, you can see I've got 1 through 31, and I can go straight to 31, and I can start typing in my daily entry, my thoughts, my reflections, and web pages that I found interesting today. I can turn my journal into my actual brain database if I'd like, and start dragging and dropping into this brain, sync it to the cloud and download it onto my phone so I always have access. So I'm ready to start journaling tomorrow, and I can link files, documents, and pages to specific days by dragging and dropping into the brain, or just go right here into the notes. I had a great webinar with Shelly today. Now I'll delete this content since this is the sample or demo brain that I do send to people. But as you can see, I've added that particular note, and I can continue on journaling today. When tomorrow rolls around, we're jumping into August. I'll go to August 1st. And that will be my new journal entry day. So you can, if I zip this up or archive it, click on File, back up to Brain Archive, and create a BRZ. I can send you a copy. You can download, like I said, at the end of the webinar today, you'll receive a link. You can download this and import this into your existing brain. To do that, I would click on File and Import, and I would import a BRZ into another brain that I already have open. So you can import this journal into your brain, or just download a copy of this brain and import it as a new standalone brain. That's how I journal, in a separate brain from the brain that I'm going to share with you today. Um, so I have more than one brain database available, and one is specifically my 2025 journal. And I do reflect back. It's good for me to reflect back on key thoughts in 2024, key thoughts in 2023, and things of that nature. You can even create your own thought types. This brain has no thought types or tags, but you can create thought types and tags for key moments. Today was a good day. I achieved a goal that was really important to me. Create a thought type for that and identify that day. July 31st, something really important happened. You need to reflect on I believe you need to reflect on the good. You need to reflect on the bad. July 31st was a tough day for me. I was challenged, and I didn't feel like I succeeded I didn't have my best day with a client, at the office, in school, on a test, whatever the case may be. It's okay to have those different thought types that identify you, what's important to you, and to reflect on it at a later date. So you'll get a sample copy of this brain. Feel free to use it. Also, another brain that I want to share, a sample brain that I want to share with you, is the note-taking brain. I created this brain years ago and had no idea how popular it would eventually become. And it's all about, we talk about the brain as collecting your files, your documents, your web pages, everything. But one of the most important components of the brain is simply taking notes. The journaling brain is all about that, just taking a note on your daily activities and reflections. How do you take a good note? There's a lot of different ways to do that. And that's what this brain talks about. From the very first topic, the sentence method. You simply write a sentence about what happened. It can't be any easier. There's a video here that's talking about using the sentence method properly for taking notes. Of course, there's going to be a commercial first on YouTube. There's a template. You enter the date, the subject of your sentences, and then sentence 1 through 10. And then, of course, here's an example on, I'm studying the Concorde in my aviation class, and here are 10 sentences that are important to me about the Concorde. So that's a real simple sentence method. We move from the sentence to the outline method. I'm sure you're all familiar with what an outline looks like. Then we get into the Cornell note-taking system. A professor at Cornell, and I've got a lot of additional information here that'll teach you all about the Cornell note-taking system. But in the end, here's a screenshot of what the Cornell note-taking system, your cues, your notes, so sort of what sparks your brain about that topic, and then notes about that cue, and then the summary, sort of a basic way to outline the Cornell note-taking system. Mind mapping method, you're looking at one right now. We're using the brain. You map out things that are connected to one another. So the template is quite specifically, creating a topic and then subtopics and child thoughts beyond there. The brain is the structure of the brain on the left. The Plex is a mind map, and then your content all goes in the content area over on the right. And then we end with the charting method. And again, there's a template for the charting method and examples of how to chart Earth's eras. So then we're moving more into tables and so forth. So there you go. I tried to get through this really quickly. There's a lot of additional data in this brain, but this is the note-taking brain, all about taking notes that work for you. No two people are alike. No two people are going to take notes quite the same. And this is a really, really great example of, finding a methodology that works best for you so you can retain thoughtful notes that can be used as a resource in the future. Now, I'm going to bring all of this together and share with you my specific brain. Shelly and I have both been with the Brain Technologies since the beginning. Shelly, a little bit longer than myself. And we have created brain databases that we still use to this day. And my personal brain that I use, this is a brain that I do feel comfortable sharing with the world, has become my future personal knowledge management system. And years ago, when I started using the brain, I would not have guessed that I would still be reflecting on thoughts and data that I collected, years ago, well over 2 or 3 decades ago. So I've been using this brain for a long, long time. It started with the Brain 1.0, and every release of the brain, my database simply gets updated, and I still use it to this day. So this brain is all about me. It's all about today's topic, future personal knowledge management. And it will continue to be my knowledge management system well into the future. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to show you a project that I'm working on right now, and then talk to you about why it's so important that I organize this project appropriately to reflect on it in the future. Because you might think, well, a project you're working on now, 10 years from now, you're not going to care. I'm going to go to a thought tag that I use called front burner. And notice I pinned that thought tag. If there's a thought that I need to get to frequently, I will pin that thought. It's front and center. It's important to me. Right now, I'm working on repairing a vintage Volkswagen Passat with my son. It's his first car, and he didn't go out and buy a brand new shiny car. No, he bought a used car that needed a lot of work, and we're working on it together as a father-son project. And so this is an important project for me. Now I can right-click on this thought and select to create a pin. So if I scroll down, I can say create a pin, and I've got a nice little shortcut to that thought. Instead, what I've done, I'm going to unpin this, right click and remove pin. Instead, what I've done is I've pinned the thought tag front burner. These are all things that are sort of important to me right now. Rather than having 10 or 15 pins across the top of my screen, I've got three really big ones. My weekend checklist, a self-guided walking tour that I'm working on for my community, my paintings, which is a passion, hobby or passion of mine, and then front burner, making a doctor's appointment. We won't get into that. Things that I'm selling for sale, bike parts and car parts that I have listed for sale. And this is an important one, working on my car with my son. So here's the thought. There's the car. You can see I even have a zoomable icon of my son washing his big purchase. So he would be terribly embarrassed if he knew I showed that today. But regardless, I'm collecting everything that is important to me for this particular project. And it's not going into a silo. There are parts of this project that simply couldn't be in the same location without the brain. Web pages, if I were to store those in my browser bookmarks and favorites, how do I link to that web page the password to log in or the car that it's associated with? Maybe it's associated with more than one car. You can see that I work on more than one Volkswagen. My wife has a Volkswagen, and there it's loading up the Volkswagen page. And we've also in the past fixed up an old 72 VW bus. So here you can see all the components. If I ever get another 72 Volkswagen bus, if I'm ever lucky enough to own another one, I can refer back to all the lessons that my organic brain has learned and since forgotten. Your digital brain never forgets. All the different parts that I purchased, where I purchased them, how much they cost, what it took to install that ignition switch, typically there's a video. Sometimes the web page isn't there anymore. Sometimes it is. But all of these components for this particular bus, I can refer back to at a later date. All right, but let's get to my current project. And what I want to share with you is right now is what we're working on is fixing an oil light. Seems like okay, add a little more bit more oil and you're good to go. It's not that easy. We have been researching online. As you can see, I've got videos that I can get to about why this oil light goes on and doesn't come off. And of course, once again, it's going to be a commercial first. But regardless, there's a lot that's going into this right now. We're treating it with a product called Liquimolly. And so I've got their website and there it is, additives being used. So I can refer to their installation instructions or procedural process and so forth to make sure that I'm doing it right. And once again, at a later date, if I ever need to do it again, I'll learn from all this. I keep track of dates over in the notes. One thing that we haven't mentioned yet is if I had just hit Control D, oops, Control D, not Shift D, it adds the current date and time. I use that feature throughout my brain. When did those new tires go on? When was that product installed? When was that product purchased and so forth? The date and time is very important to me. So just this morning, my son noticed that the oil light came back on after we thought we fixed it a few years ago. So now we're moving on to this flushing with Liquimolly. And as you can see, I don't have any further notes on it yet because we haven't. That's the next step. We know we're going to do this, but we haven't done it yet. Once we do it, I'll map that all out in my brain. And as you can see, this project is a collection of videos, web pages. I've got products that I either have purchased or will be purchasing, so I have links to those as well. Looking into the paint. When we purchased the car that we thought we were going to have to repaint the whole thing, it looked absolutely terrible. Again, we did some research online and found some products. You can see there's the sort of the before and after. And they were incredibly effective. So a little bit of research goes a long way. So all my notes on this research that I might want to actually pull up for another car in the future will always be at my fingertips. So I'm continuously learning from my projects, and I will never need to relearn what I already know because I am saving that in a very easily retrievable location in the brain. So you've learned enough about old VW Passats. We're going to move on now. Um, the next thing I want to talk about is an inspiration vault. You know, Shelley showed us how if you're inspired by people, by historians, by researchers or technology and so forth, whatever your type of interest may be, the brain is a great place to retrieve all of your or save all of your inspirations and browse through them at a later date to see how it changes your mind about a particular topic. Working on another project, if I go to, there we go, my hipster bike. That's a search that I did. I also like to rebuild old bicycles, and I'm with my other son. We're rebuilding this old Austro Daimler. It's a bike that is no longer made, European road bike, and he's just started this project. He's in the process of stripping the bike down to its bare parts. And we are simply collecting images of interesting bikes because the sky's the limit. He can repaint it, he can add new parts. There's a lot of ways to customize a bike. And in this scenario, what I am collecting are just simply images. I can copy and paste an image off the web right into the Plex and refer back to that. And these are the zoomable icons. So anytime you attach an image to a thought and all you have is that particular image, let's say I find a single speed bike with blue tires. I'm going to create the thought first. This is what I'm looking for. To search the web, I press F4 and it opens up the search web feature within the brain. I'm on a Windows machine today, so that's my shortcut for searching the web. And you can see I can search through Google, Bing, and so forth. I can even edit this list and add my own search capabilities. I'll search Google for a single speed bike with blue tires and goes directly to images. And when I find an image I really like, let's say I like this one, I'm gonna right click and, ooh, that's a graph. I might bring the whole web page in. But let's say I just screenshot this. See if it does have an image down below. Yeah, there we go. There's just a nice screenshot. I right click and ooh, this is a weird web page. It's not going to let me copy this. So what I'm going to do is go back to my thought in the brain and right click, and I'm going to select the option to capture image. And the brain goes away, and I can click and drag to, capture an image and add that image onto that particular thought. And therefore, I've got zoomable icons for those particular images that I find that I enjoy. So that's another way to gather all of your different inspirations into your brain. And then finally, the next thing that I want to share with you, Shelley touched on the AI feature, and a lot of people had questions about the AI. And the first one that came up is what makes the brain's AI different than ChatGPT? And I personally used to think of AI, it's evolved a lot, even the past few years, but I used to think of it as just a fun little toy. You ask ChatGPT a question, see if it knows the answer. Um, the brain is really what opened my eyes to the capabilities of AI because now I can create a new thought. Let's say I want to convert under inspiration. I'll leave this here. Convert a road bike to a DIY electric bike. Now, if I typed this into ChatGPT, it would give me a long paragraph on how you can go about converting a road bike to a DIY electric bicycle. then I would have to go through and organize that. That's not, that's how do I say it? That's like the goal is you want to achieve all this stuff. But you need to have those tangible goals. You need to break down a very giant goal, which is an electric bike, into approachable step-by-step processes. And that's what I think the brain can, one of the AI capabilities of the brain, is that I can say, after I've created my thought there, click on AI. And you saw Shelly do this earlier, so I'll go really quickly. I want to create or generate a thought structure on this topic. Now, a few questions that I saw that came in on ChatGPT is, or excuse me, on the Zoom Q&A is the brain's AI looking at every thought in your brain when it's, providing you with an answer? No, it's not. This brain has information on restaurants. It has information on how to make sourdough bread. None of that is important right now. I'm interested in this thought name, convert a road bike to a DIY electric bike. That's all I sent to ChatGPT. I'll share with you if you're interested where you can specify which AI engine the brain is using. The default is ChatGPT. Currently, that might change later next week with technology. But right now, that's what we're using. And here you can see it generated battery options, conversion kits. I didn't even know there was even a kit, front hub, mid drive, and rear hub. So you can just attach it to the hub. I like rear drive. This is all really, really good information. I'll accept these changes. Oh, popular brands. This is exactly what I need because I don't know anything about this. This is just an idea that I have. And now I've got all of these different steps that I can review. Is it going to be safe? How do I mount it? And so forth. What am I not even considering? I'm sure I just don't go out and buy a Shimano engine and you know, duct tape it to the frame of my bike. There's got to be a lot more to it than that. So converting a road bike to DIY electric, installation process, legal and safety considerations. So there's a lot of additional information where I can start meticulously building out the components that I want to expand on. And you saw how Shelley also gave examples of creating notes on different topics. And there's so much more that your notes can do with AI. So if I decide, all right, this is the brand that I want to use, Shimano. I know Shimano. I use a lot of Shimano parts. So I'll create an AI thought, generate a note. Now, if I just say Shimano, it's going to talk about Shimano components, maybe the history of Shimano. No, 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 no. I want to set the context. So now I'm sending multiple things to the AI. I'm setting the context of mid-drive motor kits, Shimano electric bike conversions, and generate the note. So there we go. It's generating the note specifically on converting a bike using Shimano parts, using a mid-drive motor. There's a lot of additional information for me. Battery pack, display, wiring, controller. This is all fantastic. And what's more, I left it on a really long note, so it's given me a lot of detail. If I find something that I really want it to expand on, I'll accept this. I can say, all right, the wiring harness. Tell me more about that. I'm just going to select this part. And as you can see, I can expand this. I can organize a disorganized note. I can correct spelling and grammar and so forth. Or just completely rewrite it as a proposal for a grant for a new class that I'm teaching in school. The sky's the limit on what you can do with AI here. And we've got very specific videos where we've talked about this in detail for over an hour. So I'm not going to go into all of those right now, but I do want to share with you that, the differences between the brain's AI integration and just going to Chat GPT. We're going to keep things a lot more organized here. Your Chat GPT is just going to be an ongoing list. I know you can save them in Chat GPT, but then once again, you just have a silo, a list of your history of questions that you've asked ChatGPT. Here, we're using AI under very specific topics in different areas of our brain. I can jump from here over to a recipe that I'm working on and ask ChatGPT, or excuse me, ask the brains AI, recreate this recipe, but in French or what have you. So um, I've got it organized much, much better to, again, reflect on in the future. And I can always come back to this. And like I've said all along, I never have to relearn what my organic brain once knew, and your digital brain always knows. And I believe with that, I've talked about journaling and notes and given some examples of inspiration. And this brain is my life dashboard. Like I said at the very beginning, this is a brain that I created, years and years ago, and I continue to update it and expand upon it. It is my life dashboard moving forward, so I can always refer back to it at any time. And of course, you probably saw the brain was syncing in the background. I have access to this brain online and on my other computers and devices. I've got a traveling MacBook that I use, and I've got my iPhone. My brain is always there at my fingertips, ready to go and take notes. In fact, you may have noticed there were some different structures. If I go to front burner, I'm going to give you an example right now. If I go to my oil history, notice that oh no, I already fixed it. The date range was typed there a little bit differently because I have it set up on differently on my phone. And I was in the car with my iPhone and I set the date July 29th for how many miles were on the odometer when I changed the oil. So the date format was different, but I went back and manually changed it. So I'm using this brain on my iPhone here on my local machine, always available to me to take notes in the future. And with that, Shelley, I think we're going to jump into some of the Q&A. So please let me know if there's some specific questions that anyone has asked throughout the demo.
Fantastic. Yes. And first of all, a lot of people were asking for your note taking brain. Fantastic
Great.
example on journaling. I did mention in the Q&A that we will have the examples as downloadable brain zips or archives actually
Hmm.
on the link to the recording page. If you really want them today, feel free to email into our supporter chat and we'll be happy to send them to you. So my example, the LifeOS brain, this note-taking brain. These are resources for you. More than happy to share those with you. And since we're talking about brain management, there were a couple questions about the relationships between different brains. So I'm going to throw a few. First of all, somebody actually asked, how do I see all my brains? So that's done through actually just opening up another tab. All your brains will actually appear. That's how you see them all. And then there was a little bit of talk about how we can link from one brain to another. And there's many ways.
Great.
So I think I opened up a lot of brains. You've seen Matt's gone into brains. So you can, first of all, your brain, your search feature will cross search across all your brains. So that's great and that's fantastic. So you don't necessarily need
Oh,
to link them if you want them separate for collaboration purposes. That being said, there first of all you can copy and paste thoughts from one brain to the other, and you can also create actual brain links. So I think with that, I'll let you spend maybe a couple minutes on brain management, and then we'll jump to a
sure.
few more questions.
Sure. Yeah. Regarding the search, that's really important to point out too. If you don't have the right brain open, the brain that I have open right now is my sample brain for daily journaling. It has no notes in it. If I search for bike, it's not going to find anything in this brain. But as you can see, bikes shows up in many of my other brains, mostly my lower bloom brain, because I do a lot with bikes. So if I'm in the wrong brain, I can open it up and go, directly to, um, uh, to a specific thought that talks about bikes. In this case, it's about the bike route for a triathlon. So you can easily find the correct, thought that you're looking for simply by doing a search. To get to a new brain, just simply click on the little plus tab up here, or you can say File and open up a new tab. By default, any new tab you open is going to be your brain list. So you select which brain you want to open. You can have more than one brain, or you can have just one mega brain to rule them all. There's no right or wrong. As you've seen, Shelly and I like smaller topic specific brains. Can you link brains for thoughts from one brain to another? Certainly. So let's say today I worked on, my son's car. Since we talked about that a little bit, I'm going to go to front burner, oil history, and this is the thought that I want to link to in my daily journal. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy the local thought URL. Each thought in your brain has two URLs, the local thought URL for the desktop app and the web thought URL for the online version if you're syncing your brain online. In this case, I'm just linking a local brain from one thought to another. So I say copy local thought URL and go over to my journal and I'll go to today's date. So that is July 31st. And I'm going to right click and it shows up as paste web link. But the brain follows a very specific rule. It will always launch a thought in its native application. Therefore, if this was a .doc, it would open up in Word. If it's a web page, it would open up in my default browser. In this case, it's a brain, so it's going to launch the brain and take me directly to a specific thought in that brain. So I know a lot of users that have very smaller, topic-specific brains, and then there's a brain map, sort of a mega brain that links to all the different brain databases that they have. That's certainly an option. And I can create a link to my daily journal, a thought in this brain too, if I'd like. So I can, go back and forth between two brains. Or like Shelly said, if I just wanted a copy of this thought and its content, I'm just going to right click rather. And I'm going to say copy. There it is. Copy this thought, VW Passat oil history. And I'll go to my daily journal and I'll right click and I'll paste. And so that isn't a link to the other brain. That is a copy of that thought. So it's got all of the notes, all of the content, any file attachments that were there and so forth, just as a copy. And you can see there's even the thought tag it brought over with it. So I don't want these in this brain. So I'm going to hit Control Z and undo. Control Z again, Control Z. There we go. So we've taken all that away. That's in edit undo also. So I can undo and redo steps before it syncs. If it syncs in the background, that sort of clears out the undo cache, just so you know. So you can certainly link between different brains or copy data from one brain to another very, very easily.
Okay, great. And just to get back to some other questions,
Mhm.
I do want to let everyone know we will have a recording of this available since we're approaching the hour. We will go about 5 to 7 more minutes into Q&A because we have a lot of questions.
Oh, good.
And one question is coming from Jeff. How do I link a folder in the brain?
Oh, sure. So, like we always say, any type of data can be associated with a thought in the brain in some way. When you drag and drop, there are different options for what happens when you drag and drop. Are you copying that file in, or are you moving that file into the brain, or linking that file into the brain? But a folder is the same. You can make a link in your notes to a specific file or location, or I'm going to open up a sample folder here. So if I go to my brain directory, I've got a sample. Let's say Project X is something that I'm working on right now. Now, when I drag and drop into the brain, I'm going to go up to options and go into my preferences. If you're on a Mac, you would click on the brain preferences. But I would move this file if I were to just drag and drop. But I'm going to change my behavior to say link.
And I think the default is actually drag and drop to link to shorthand,
Actually,
isn't it?
the default is to copy, so there would be a
Yeah,
duplicate.
okay. So there's
So
many ways to
yeah,
do it. And sometimes,
absolutely. But now I'm
okay.
just linking, and so let's just pick on July 31st. It's all happening today, and I'm going to drag and drop a folder right into the brain. So there's Project X, And when I click and launch, it takes me to the contents of that folder. If the contents of that folder, since this is just a link, if the contents of this folder change over time, so I'll go into Project X and I right click and I add a new text document called QWERTY. There it is. And now I'll launch from the brain and it opens it says, hey, you already have this open. I'm not going to open it twice. And there's that file. But if I close this, so because it is just a link to that folder, any changes that happen in that folder are going to be seen when you open the directory. If it was a copy where you move the folder in, well, if you move the folder in, you wouldn't be able to do anything else in its original location. If it's a copy and you change something in the original, it's going to open the internal folder copy that you have, which where the change doesn't exist. So completely up to you, whatever works best, but you can certainly bring folders into the brain. Yes.
Yeah, and it's worth noting because a couple of you mentioned different apps. OneNote was mentioned, Notion, I think SharePoint portal
Hmm.
site somebody mentioned. So basically, any relative path or URL can
Yeah,
be attached to a thought. And in fact, we have companies, obviously. Best practice for our purposes, I would tell you if you're starting and you have full control, keep all your files internally so they sync across all your devices and servers. But we get it. Like
that's
for
what I like. Yeah,
instance, we have a client that has a huge shared folder directory, but it's a mess, and they actually just have links, kind of like what Matt showed, to each mapping out their shared folder drive, so they can actually get to stuff. So if there's that one design document that's buried on your shared folder drive in your company or in Google Docs that you're sharing, but you need to get access to it when you're in your design mode in your brain, create that shortcut, and then you've got that tunnel vision. That's the great thing about the brain. It is an agnostic. So whether the data is inside or outside your brain, that visual display and that relational map will be able to get you to wherever that data source is.
yeah.
And then the flip side of that, somebody had a question earlier. Oh, Rob, is there a way to save web pages? So in this case, when I dragged and dropped that web page earlier from
Ooh.
the Norman group, yes, that was just a link because I like my pages dynamic. But like as Rob's saying, is there a way to save pages? Do you have a web clipper? So I'm going to throw that the reverse of that back to you, Matt.
Yes, yes, we certainly do. So let's say, this brain,
Matt's
this,
like chomping at the bit,
oh,
like
I love this
my
feature
favorite
because,
feature.
yeah, I'm using it a lot these days. So let's say this is a page that I really, really like. But who knows if Quella Bicycle is going to be around. You saw earlier I was on a web page of a part that I purchased that's not there anymore. So let's say, gosh, I really need to know all of these specifications for this bike, but this might not be there in the future. I'm going to select that content. Now, I could select nothing. Maybe I should do that first because it's kind of fun. I'm going to select nothing and I'm going to hit the brain box icon. The brain box icon is an add-on in your browser. So I'm in Google Chrome. So if you go to the Chrome store, you can look for browser extensions and Brainbox will be there. Or you go to thebrain.com/brainbox and there's all the different information about the different browsers that are out there and how you install Brainbox to your browser. So I've got Google Chrome, I click on Brainbox, but instead of just letting it go send a link to this web page, if I did nothing, it would send a link to, quellabicycle.com/products, blah, 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 to Brainbox. But I want to archive this web page. So I actually want to create it as a child thought of, and I'll do a search. Whoops, I did a browse. I'll do a search for hipster. I call this one bike my hipster bike. Let's see if it finds it. It's going to search for a little bit. Well, I'll just leave it where it is if search is acting low. But notice it takes all of that information. It grabs the graphics, everything off that web page, and it's going to add this into the note of my thought. So I can select what I want. If this is all looks good, but I want to say handlebars, nope, will build wood bars. Okay, so I can make my own edits and I want to save that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to click on create. And what create is doing is it's sending it to this particular brain. So it's a different brain I had selected. I didn't feel like doing a search because it's searching through all my brains and I've got a lot of brain databases. So rather than making you wait, I'll just send it to this brain, which is a sample brain anyhow. And you can see there's all the note with the will build wooden handlebars note that I made. There's the graphics. This page can go bye-bye, no problem. When it's gone, I'll still have this note. The only thing that won't work is the URL that's attached to this thought. So that's our web clipper. It's done with Brainbox. You can then modify that content, but you can archive that content. And it's so important because I do buy products off of web pages that might not be there in the future, vintage bike parts or car parts. Even if you're clipping news and data, CNN doesn't keep every page live forever. News from 5, 10 years ago, if you're researching history, that page the URL might have changed, or the web page was just deleted or what have you. The web clipper is a great way to archive that. Now, I can also copy and paste into the brain. The great thing about the web clipper is that I might not have that specific brain open at the right time. So I see something I'm not doom scrolling, but researching. I find something I like. I can send it to my brain through Brainbox and archive it at a later date. Or I can say, all right, search my brains for this topic. Yeah, send it to that. And you create a process. So right now I'm researching vintage looking new bicycles. I can continuously every page I find that I like, send it to the right brain and the right thought. So I'm replicating a particular process for my research. So love that feature. Great question. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to give that a quick demo.
All right. And then a follow-up question from Rob about actually being able to tag what website you drag in, whether it's clipped or put in. And for example, if I drag a website into my daily journal and next
Hmm.
week I want to find that website again, I don't want to click through every day to go for it. So based on this behavior, can I auto tag it to save sites? Now, there's a lot to unpack with that question.
Yeah,
So let me just say, the cool thing about if you want to store things chronologically, which to be honest isn't that common, but we're talking about journaling. So in this case, it would be you have your backlinks and auto mentions in notes, which are fantastic and topic based. So that bottom area will actually mention concepts. And then that being said, you could actually use a thought tag for something and then
that's what I would do.
search all
Yeah,
notes, all your connected documents. So we would never really want to see you clicking chronologically through anything. You can, if you're kind of being, sentimental and you want to go back through whatever July or that kind of thing. But in reality, with your thought tags, your thought types, your backlinks, and your mentions, as well as your search, you should be able to pull up information like this without navigating. So the navigation and the context is very important. So maybe, I guess we're running out of time. We don't have to unpack all of that, but the spirit of that question in terms of how do I get to information that I put in fast via, and maybe let's talk a little bit about backlinks, mentions, and search
sure. So really quickly,
and
I don't
tags.
have an image for paperclip. Well, I'll do camera. So let me show you what I'm doing here really quickly. I created a few tags. This is a brain. I'm going to delete these in this brain at a later date, but I created a couple of tags. Shelly mentioned tags, and that's the first thing I thought of. I would create a tag for if this is something that I did on my own or if I clipped it. just so I know by looking at the thought that's clipped or that's from me or what have you. So I created a thought tag called clipped. I created a thought tag called homegrown, and I'll click to add an icon so I know all homegrown thoughts have a picture of a plant. There we go. So there's my homegrown and my clipped have the little camera. So then when I go to one of my thoughts, now you mentioned, can I have it automatically say this was clipped, be flagged as this was clipped versus this was homegrown. I created it on my own. Automatically, I can't think of a thing that will do that. If you send something to Brainbox and then attach it, it doesn't automatically get an identifier. This was sent to the brain via BrainBox. This was sent via a web clip that you took. So I would, let's say I added some content here. I created it myself. It's up to me to say, all right, tag, I'm going to categorize that as homegrown. And thought number C was something that was clipped from the web. So I'll manually tag that. That is a manual process. But the advantage there is I'll go to another thought on July 6th. Here's some content. One, semicolon, two, three, four, five. So I create multiple thoughts. And thought number two on July 6th was also clipped. Now, the advantage of doing this is when I do want to review my content, show me all thoughts that I've clipped. There's thought C. I'm not sure why oh, there, it just didn't appear right away. So these are all the thoughts that have been clipped. And here are all my thoughts in this brain. You can also run a report for all thoughts that have been homegrown. So you can manually apply those thought tags, but I think that's a good way to capture the data that you're interested in. If that's important to you, I think thought tags are a really, really good way to go for that. Now, Shelley mentioned backlinks and unlinked mentions and so forth. I'm going to get into a brain that has a lot of data, and actually, I'm going to turn on my mapped links. Mapped links is if you ever have the Plex totally minimized or off screen, you can still navigate through your brain. As you can see, I didn't close it all the way because I wanted you to see that when I click on a mapped link, it goes to that thought. And also down below is where that thought also appears. That's an unlinked mention. So wish list is also appearing on my thought for 2020 BWCA. BWCA, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. I was planning a trip and I made a little wish list of items that I wish I had. And so there's my wish list item and how many I need, what their price is, and so forth. So it's the this particular feature is unlinked mentions is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful feature as your brain grows and evolves over time. So here I can see where BWCA, that's the name of this thought, or a portion of the name of this thought, is appearing in other locations. So this is a list to the boys. I made a note to my kids that I was going camping with of what they needed to bring. And as you can see, BWCA was appearing in this long journaling note that I took. Other words that are underlined in blue means you have that word appearing as a note or as a thought elsewhere in this brain. So I mentioned the word sawbill. If I right click, I can activate the sawbill thought and I'll go directly to sawbill and there's a map of Sawbill Lake. As you can see, there were many sawbill references. So I could go to one of the other sawbills. If I scroll down, sawbill, that one was a map. Oops, right click and activate sawbill. Which one? I want to go to sawbill, just a list of lakes that I have, what have you. So, in fact, I don't even know why I have that one. I probably can do a little house cleaning and clean it up. And if I activate the other one, once again, side lakes off of Wine Lake. So I've got a lot of additional, locations of where sawbill appears in this brain. It seems I might need to clean a few of those up. But those are the backlinks and unlinked mentions. So I can link thoughts to one another, or if I happen to type something that's being referenced elsewhere, I'll be able to find it elsewhere in this brain.
All right, great. And just in terms of somebody just asked, as far as, is there any limitations to thoughts? Is that why we have a lot of separate brains? And I just want to clarify, I
Oh,
actually have one big brain for everything. That is my preference. It's a little bit different from Matt, but I actually have a lot of my satellite brains because I like to share them, or archive them and send them to users. So that's why those brains are separate. But just to clarify, no, there is no limit. Like Jerry Mikulski's brain, we can send you a link to that. It has, I think, over 1 million thoughts and links. I don't even know what number of links he
definitely
has.
over 1 million links, up to close to 1 million
Okay,
thoughts, and thoughts are linked in multiple locations, so well over 1 million links in that particular brain. And that's a brain that was built thought by thought. He didn't import a database. He created that brain himself over time, and he is closing in on 1 million thoughts in that
okay.
brain. Yeah. This particular brain, I've got smaller topic specific brains. And this brain still has, you can see, has 7,906 thoughts in it.
Right, exactly.
So it's still pretty large, but it's one of the brains that I pop in and out of on a daily basis.
Nice. And then there are a lot of questions, great demo on tags, a lot of questions on best practices between tags and typed. I did point out the tutorials page where we have under advanced. So feel free to utilize that. And also today's session, very focused on journaling, personal development. But join us tomorrow for the Brain 101, because we have a lot more time to go into the basics. I know, I think there was an earlier question when I was actually creating thoughts. Somebody was like, hey, slow down. How did those thoughts get created? You drag the gate. That's the kind of thing that we will show a little bit more slower. There it is. You can do that in many ways, but we will cover that in a 101 class and on our tutorial pages. Sorry if that was a little fast. It's just some of our advanced users don't want to see that demo every single time we show it. So we try and do a moderate version of beginning and advanced features to kind of keep everyone's interest during that session. But that being said, let us know if you have any more questions. A couple more questions before we close the session. Kay had a question about a layer of privacy between our AI and the thoughts. And yes, I just want to clarify. I think Yahya had answered that, but
Mhm.
the great thing about the way our AI works is we aren't sending all your information. Nothing is being sent other than your query, specifically like when I did that product design query to AI. That query goes to the AI chat GPT database and brings back your results, but that's it. It's not looking at, your weekly list or to-do journal. So a lot of people really do love and appreciate our AI for the layered protection it does have. So in essence, the only thing that AI gets, the AI engine, is your query. And once that query is done, AI is done. Now, we may pivot in the future. Other people have wanted for AI to scan more of their brain. So that may come, but in the current version that you're at, you can feel very safe and secure as always. And if any of that changes, we'll always keep you up to date. And there was another question, a lot of questions on AI. So I actually put out, and Matt, I don't know if you want to go to this page, it's thebrain.com/AI. That is our AI page. I don't know if we have, if I think all of there were a couple of webinars. Somebody wanted a dedicated webinar to AI. We've done tons of them. So I think most of them are on that page. Feel free to write into support. And our AI will be evolving. A lot of you are asking about the Brain 15. That beta will be coming soon. I can't exactly say when, but stay tuned. You sign up for our newsletter or follow us on X, because there's going to be some forthcoming announcements for a beta program getting started on that. And of course, if you purchase any software today, that automatically qualifies you for an upgrade. And as part of a services your cloud services, you will automatically get that upgrade if you are subscribed to cloud services. So a lot of evolution happening. And I think with that, we're going to end today's session. We're already 20 minutes into overtime. Great questions. Thank you all so much for all the feedback, all the questions. But before we do, Matt, fantastic demo. Any final words of wisdom on future personal knowledge management or designing your life OS? You've given us a lot to chew on
Yeah,
today.
I'll just ring the bell once again. Get it into your digital brain. Your digital brain never forgets. You can always go back and groom and edit and modify where that content is, but put it in your digital brain. Your future self will thank you.
All right, indeed. Well, thanks to everyone, and we hope to see you on a future Brain Technologies event. And do join us for tomorrow's Brain 101 class. This class size is a lot smaller than our larger events, so we can actually demo every single question on that class. And feel free to jump in towards the end too if you just have a specific question you want. Matt will be hosting tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you on a future event, and good luck creating your future forward brain. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.